Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. When manatees and alligators approach one another in the water, the alligators give way to the manatees. In Florida, several alligators, even those measuring 12.1 feet long, will possibly allow a manatee to pass before continuing to swim. The meowing sound cats make is actually a language developed specifically for humans. Research into how felines communicate revealed that they rarely meow at one another, but they do so when they want something from their human owners. Among adult cats, communication usually depends more on body language, scents, and other less noticeable sounds. In addition, many felines learn to modify the tone and intensity of their meows depending on the reactions they get from people. While they make up only 1% of the human population, psychopaths seem to make good businessmen. An Australian study showed that more than 1 out of every 5 chief executive officers were psychopaths, a number that rivals the percentage of people in prison. According to NASA satellite data, the lowest recorded temperature was negative 93.2 degrees Celsius, or negative 135.8 degrees Fahrenheit. It was recorded in August 2010 and occurred in Antarctica. It is estimated that the world's oceans contain more than $771 trillion in gold, but it is nearly impossible to obtain because it is dissolved in salt water. The concentration is so tiny that extracting a profitable amount would require processing enormous volumes of seawater. Even so, scientists and treasure hunters have spent decades trying to find viable methods to recover that gold without significant commercial success. Honeybees can transmit certain diseases and microorganisms to one another during mating. Some studies have found that these infections can spread rapidly within a hive because queens mate with numerous males within a short period of time. Although he is easily recognized in part because of his dark, slicked-back hair, Elvis Presley was actually a natural blonde. He dyed his hair jet black because he thought it would give him a more provocative appearance. Ketchup was initially sold as medicine after a medical article published in 1834 claimed that tomatoes helped with digestive problems. South Florida is the only place in the world where alligators can be found coexisting in the wild with crocodiles, even though alligators greatly outnumber crocodiles. Research revealed that you are more likely to die on your own birthday than on any other day of the year. The probability increases if your birthday falls on a weekend. Some researchers believe this could be related to celebrations, excessive alcohol consumption, emotional stress, or travel during those dates. It has also been observed that elderly people sometimes manage to stay alive until reaching important events, such as birthdays or family anniversaries. The underside of your hands is called the palm because of a Roman tradition in which palm leaves were placed into the hands of contest winners. Palm branches were considered symbols of victory, honor, and triumph in various ancient Mediterranean cultures. Over time, the word also became associated with the inner surface of the hand because of that symbolic connection. If you are lucky enough to live as long as the average human being, your heart will beat around 3 billion times. This organ begins beating just weeks after the embryo forms and works non-stop throughout your entire life. In a single day, the human heart can pump thousands of liters of blood through a network of blood vessels that, if stretched out, would cover enormous distances. Don Gorski, a resident of Wisconsin and holder of the world record for the most Big Macs consumed by a single person, has eaten more than 34,000 of those burgers throughout his life. He claims that Big Macs make up between 90 and 95% of his daily diet, and he has maintained that habit for decades, becoming a recognized figure among fast food fans and world record enthusiasts. According to a Harvard University study conducted in 2011, potato chips cause more weight gain in people than any other food. The researchers pointed out that this type of snack combines high amounts of fat, salt, and refined carbohydrates, making it easy to consume large portions without feeling full quickly. In addition, they are often part of repetitive eating habits associated with sedentary lifestyles and excessive calorie consumption. If you took the number of times people around the world were bitten by sharks in 1 year and multiplied it by 10, you would have approximately the number of people in New York who were bitten by other people. As exaggerated as it may sound, human bites are frequent enough to be regularly documented in hospitals and medical reports. In addition, the bacteria present in the human mouth can make these types of wounds especially prone to infection. While you were in the womb, you regularly swam in and drank your own urine. As the fetus develops, the kidneys begin producing urine that passes into the amniotic fluid, which also helps protect and surround the baby inside the womb. This process is a normal part of prenatal development and contributes to the proper functioning of several organs before birth. The traditional white hat worn by chefs has 100 folds. It is said that this represents the fact that there are 100 ways to cook an egg. This style of hat, known as a toque blanche, became popular in French kitchens and also served to indicate hierarchy and experience within the culinary team. The taller the hat, the more prestige the chef wearing it usually had. The cuckoo clock in Triberg-Schwarzwald is the largest cuckoo clock on the planet. It has a pendulum measuring 25.9 feet long, and its cuckoo bird weighs nearly 330 pounds. The enormous clock was built following the traditional operation of German Black Forest clocks, but on a gigantic scale. Thousands of tourists visit it every year to watch the entire mechanism come to life when the famous cuckoo appears. Human beings are the only creatures whose brains shrink, while the brains of animals such as chimpanzees maintain their size. Ours do not. So the next time you say you are losing your mind, you will technically be correct. As we age, certain regions of the brain can slightly decrease in volume, especially areas related to memory and information processing. However, the human brain also possesses a remarkable ability to adapt, known as neuroplasticity, which allows it to continue creating new connections throughout life. After shortages of human and pig tissue left doctors in Fortaleza, Brazil, unable to treat burns, they began using tilapia skin, a type of fish widely available in the area. The results were incredible, since tilapia contains even more collagen, which is necessary for healing than human tissue. Clinical trials are now being conducted, and this treatment could expand to other countries. It is estimated that every commercial airplane in the United States is struck by lightning at least once a year. But fortunately, because of technological advances, lightning has not caused an accident since 1967. A study revealed that stressed teenagers calmed down almost instantly upon hearing the voice of their own mother. This is because the bonding hormone called oxytocin is released when humans recognize a loved one nearby. Researchers observed that even a phone call could generate emotional effects similar to a hug. Oxytocin is also related to feelings of trust, security, and social attachment in human beings. American scientist James Ryan conducted several studies by building clean rooms and using various animals in an attempt to determine whether they could survive without bacteria. He eventually concluded that it was technically possible, but many of his test subjects died because the digestive system requires certain bacteria to break down food and extract nutrients. According to researchers in London, if everyone on Earth washed their hands properly on a regular basis, more than 1 million lives would be saved every year. Washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds can significantly reduce the spread of bacteria, viruses, and respiratory illnesses. Public health organizations consider this practice one of the simplest, cheapest, and most effective preventive measures ever implemented. Napoleon, Hitler, Alexander the Great, and Mussolini supposedly suffered from allurophobia, the fear of cats. Psychologist Satoshi Kanazawa conducted a study involving 20,745 students over a 5-year period and concluded that night owls, or those who prefer going to bed and waking up later, tend to be more intelligent than early risers. Another study revealed that, despite what morning people may criticize their nocturnal counterparts for, night owls tend to use their waking hours more productively. They remain mentally alert for longer periods than morning people. Goosebumps are the result of evolution. They occur when the muscles around body hair rise to make the hair stand upright. The intention is to puff up the entire outer layer to increase insulation, and therefore keep us warm. Nearly all armadillos belonging to the genus Dasypus give birth to quadruplets. Even more surprising is that all 4 offspring are usually genetically identical, since they come from a single fertilized egg that splits into multiple embryos. This phenomenon is extremely rare among mammals and has sparked scientific interest in studies related to genetics and embryonic development. A sloth's fur is so long and thick that it becomes the perfect place for algae to grow. The algae actually help camouflage the animals so well that some sloths have reportedly grabbed their own arms, thinking they were branches instead of limbs, causing them to fall to their deaths. According to an online survey commissioned by the Innovation Center for United States Dairy, around 7% of American citizens believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Every year, May 29th is celebrated as Put a Pillow on Your Refrigerator Day in many places across Europe and the United States. It is meant to bring good luck and prosperity. And literally, all you have to do is place your pillow on top of your refrigerator. The custom has roots in old household traditions, where people placed cloths or bedding over pantries and kitchens to attract abundance into the home. Over time, the tradition adapted to modern refrigerators and eventually became a curious, popular superstition shared on social media. Female dragonflies are known to fake their own deaths to avoid their male counterparts attempting to begin mating rituals. Some even fall to the ground and remain motionless for several seconds until the male flies away. This behavior was documented by researchers who observed how certain species develop surprising strategies to reduce stress and avoid constant pursuit during the breeding season. Polar bears can consume and store an incredible amount of vitamin A, so much that if you were to eat a polar bear's liver, you would most likely die from hypervitaminosis A, or simply put, vitamin A poisoning. Arctic explorers documented severe cases of poisoning after consuming the livers of polar animals, since this organ concentrates enormous amounts of nutrients. Symptoms can include dizziness, intense pain, internal damage, and severe neurological problems. On September 1, 2009, the Madison, Wisconsin City Council voted 15-4 in favor of making the pink plastic flamingo the official bird of the city, and it remains the official bird to this day. There are more pink plastic flamingos in people's yards across the United States than there are real live flamingos in the wild. Mohammed Ashan, a Taliban commander, surrendered himself to Afghan troops at a checkpoint in an attempt to claim the $100 reward that had been offered for his capture. He was arrested and never received the reward. As a joke, popular Australian comedian Hamish Blake entered the New York Bodybuilding Championship in 2011 after being challenged to do so. Incredibly, Blake won because he was the only competitor who signed up for the over 200-pound weight category. In December 2012, two neuroscientists successfully implanted a false memory into a mouse, causing it to freeze in fear while recalling something that had never actually happened. The experiment was carried out by using light to activate specific neurons related to memory, a technique known as optogenetics. The study opened new possibilities for understanding disorders such as post-traumatic stress and the way the brain stores emotional experiences. Oxford University is so old that it actually predates the formation of the Aztec Empire by more than 200 years. Teaching was already taking place at the school in the year 1096, while the Aztec civilization did not begin until the year 1325. Over the centuries, Oxford has educated dozens of scientists, writers, and world leaders, and its libraries preserve unique medieval manuscripts that survived wars, fires, and enormous historical changes across Europe. In 1980, workers at a 3M plant in South Carolina were shocked to discover that plastic film reels used to manufacture stationery products had created a static electricity force field. The workers became frozen in place and could not approach the machinery to escape. They literally had to walk backward until reaching an area where the effect was less severe. After the band Outkast released their song Hey Ya in September 23, the tune quickly became a #1 hit. But one of the song's lyrics, which encouraged listeners to shake it like a Polaroid picture, forced the Polaroid company itself to issue a warning informing people taking photographs that shaking their instant developing image could damage it. Despite this, Polaroid still used the song to revitalize public perception of its products. A study conducted at Oregon State University revealed that drinking beer can make you smarter. There is a chemical substance in hops that positively affects intellectual function. The only problem is that you would have to consume 930 gallons in a single day to see such results, and I am pretty sure that would have a negative effect. If vending machines keep rejecting your bill, you can fix it by putting it in the microwave for 20 seconds. When it comes out, it will be crisp, and unless it is seriously damaged, vending machines will accept it. Just make sure not to actually cook it so you do not start a fire. The country of Australia has 10,685 beaches, so many that if you visited a different one every day, it would take you more than 29 years to set foot on all of them. Many of those beaches are located in nearly untouched areas surrounded by reefs, cliffs, and natural reserves inhabited by unique species. Some are even so isolated that they can only be reached by boat, small aircraft, or after long routes through the Australian desert. Counting all controlled territories, the country that exists in the greatest number of time zones is France, with 12. The United States covers 11, and Russia covers 9. France reaches that number thanks to its territories spread across different regions of the planet, including the Caribbean, South America, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific. Without those overseas territories, the difference between the countries would be much smaller. In the early days when cologne was marketed to potential buyers, it was sold as protection. People used and drank cologne water to avoid catching the plague. At the time, many believed diseases spread through foul odors in the air, so strong perfumes were viewed as a form of defense. Some old formulas included herbs, alcohol, and citrus oils, considered medicinal by the European population. Not only tissues and organs are made of water, your skeleton is as well. In fact, around 31% of your bone mass is water. That hydration is important for maintaining bone strength and flexibility, as well as helping with processes such as bone regeneration and nutrient transport within the marrow. Even the discs in the spine depend on water to properly absorb impacts. According to the American Chemical Society, catnip is much better at keeping mosquitoes away than DEET, a common ingredient used in insect repellents. Between June 2nd and June 4th, 2017, a temporary establishment called the Restaurant of Mistaken Orders appeared in Tokyo, Japan. The owners hired people with dementia to serve as waiters and waitresses, leading many diners to laugh after being served the wrong things. Our blood appears red because of the way oxygen and iron interact. There are subunits called heme groups in every hemoglobin protein in our blood, which bind to iron molecules that, in turn, bind to oxygen. When iron becomes oxygenated, it turns red, and when it becomes deoxygenated, it turns dark red. In at least 21 of the 50 states in the United States, you can buy the meat of a cow and bison hybrid. The animal is appropriately called beefalo. This crossbreed was developed to combine the toughness and low-fat content of bison with the easier breeding of domestic cattle. Beefalo meat usually contains less cholesterol and fat than traditional beef, which attracted the attention of some consumers and livestock producers. Baby rabbits are born hairless, blind, and so weak that they can barely move on their own, while hares are born with plenty of fur, the ability to see, and enough strength to hop shortly after emerging. This difference occurs because hares are usually born in open areas and need to react quickly to predators, while rabbits remain protected inside burrows during their first weeks of life. Before the rise in popularity of Netflix and the ability to pause live television, the British show EastEnders caused enormous spikes in the electrical grid that required backup stations to be placed on standby. This was because when a commercial break began, millions of people turned on their kettles for tea, consuming electricity all at the same time. The reason tattoos are not replaced when your skin renews itself is because the ink is inserted deeply into the dermis layer, which does not exfoliate or shed without injury. When the main water supply for La Paz, Bolivia became contaminated with acidic metal waste from abandoned mines, a team of researchers found an interesting substance to filter it with: llama manure. The microbes in the dung neutralized the acids and removed most of the dissolved metals. Outside Alliance, Nebraska, in the United States, there is a popular recreation of Stonehenge made entirely out of old cars. Carhenge consists of 39 different cars and trucks from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and has been arranged to resemble the mysterious monument as closely as possible. In 1994, the first meeting of the Homestead, Florida Crime Watch Group was interrupted when a bale of cocaine weighing 74.9 pounds fell from the sky. The drugs were being transported in a small airplane, and the traffickers threw them out when a United States Customs aircraft caught up with them. International Redhead Day is an annual event celebrated during the first weekend of September in Breda, a small town in the Netherlands. Thousands of natural redheads attend, participating in conferences, workshops, and demonstrations all centered around red hair. The application to NASA from Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, arrived 1 week late. Fortunately, he had a friend named Dick Day who worked at NASA and placed the late application into the pile of those that arrived on time. If it had not been for Day, Armstrong would never have gone to the moon. Before becoming the king of provocative television, talk show host Jerry Springer was a politician. In fact, he served as mayor of Cincinnati for an entire year between 1977 and 1978. According to the results of a Harris Interactive survey, women who play video games tend to have more relationships and happier relationships than those who do not. Some researchers believe that video games can also function as a shared social activity that strengthens communication and quality time between couples. In addition, many female gamers participate in online communities where they build friendships and connections that can last for years. The Waffle House Index is an informal scale that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, uses to determine how severe a storm will be. The Waffle House restaurant chain has a reputation for remaining open even during bad weather, so if the restaurant is reported closed, it means severe damage is imminent. In Japan, it takes longer to become an itamae, or sushi chef, than it does to become a doctor. Some work for up to 20 years before earning such an honorable position. During that apprenticeship, students spend years mastering tasks considered basic, such as preparing rice, sharpening knives, and selecting fresh fish. In many traditional restaurants, precision and discipline are viewed as an essential part of the profession's prestige. So many people move to Florida after retirement that by the year 2030, it is estimated that 1 out of every 4 people living there will be older than 65 years of age. The warm climate, lack of state income tax, and large number of retirement communities have made the state one of the most popular retirement destinations. Many cities even adapted medical, recreational, and residential services specifically for older adults. Actor Frankie Muniz has spoken publicly about his memory problems and how some important events in his life have become blurry over time. Although rumors circulated for years claiming he did not remember starring in the series Malcolm in the Middle, the actor later clarified that he does remember that period of his life. Although many specific details are difficult for him because of health issues and the sheer number of experiences he accumulated from a very young age. There are more than 400 words that people in Scotland use for snow, including snaw, spitters, and flindricken. Many of those expressions come from Scots and ancient regional dialects developed in areas where weather conditions constantly varied. Some words describe light snow, wet snow, wind-driven snow, or even snow that falls in tiny, almost invisible bursts. Throughout its lifetime, a swan will usually have only one mate. When that mate dies, it is possible that the surviving swan may also die from a broken heart. In many swan species, pairs develop extremely strong bonds and perform complex, synchronized dances to reinforce their connection. After losing a partner, some show drastic behavioral changes, refusing to eat or isolating themselves from the rest of the group for long periods. The highest temperature officially recorded on planet Earth was 56.7 degrees Celsius, or 134 degrees Fahrenheit. It occurred on July 10, 1913, at Greenland Ranch in Death Valley, California. For decades, it was believed that the highest temperature had occurred in Al-Azizia, where an even higher reading was reported. However, the World Meteorological Organization officially invalidated that record after concluding that the measurement contained errors and problems in the way it was taken. Since then, the Death Valley reading has once again been recognized as the official highest temperature ever documented. The oldest social housing complex in the world in Augsburg, Bavaria, is called Fugerei, and its tenants pay today what was charged when the houses were first built in the year 1500, the equivalent of $1 United States dollar. In addition to the symbolic rent, residents must commit to praying daily for the founding family of the complex. The place still maintains traditional doors and schedules that are closed every night just as they were centuries ago. In a study that took more than 7 years to complete, researchers in Alberta discovered that there are at least 3,079 chemical compounds in human urine. Many of those compounds come from food, medications, intestinal bacteria, and natural metabolic processes. Scientists believe that studying these substances could help detect diseases and health changes long before visible symptoms appear. There is a small number of human beings who were born with resistance or even complete immunity to HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. Unfortunately, that number is estimated to be lower than 1%. Many of these cases are connected to a genetic mutation known as CCR5 delta 32, which makes it difficult for the virus to enter certain cells in the body. This discovery has been key in developing new research and possible experimental treatments against HIV. The first electric lighting installed in the White House was placed there in 1891. President Benjamin Harrison was so afraid of being electrocuted that he refused to touch any of the switches to turn the lights on. At the time, electricity was still a relatively new technology, and many people distrusted it because of unfamiliarity and accidents that occurred during its early years of expansion. Harrison even asked the household staff to turn the lights on and off for him. Model company Revell agreed to stop producing one of its products, a model of a non-existent Nazi UFO called the Haunebu 2, whose packaging claimed it was the first craft capable of flying through space. Revell received several complaints stating that it was historically inaccurate and apologized for how ridiculous the situation was. Unrealistic hopes or fantasies are often called opium dreams. The term comes from the wild dreams people supposedly had while smoking opium. During the 19th century and early 20th century, opium was consumed in various parts of the world for both recreational and medicinal purposes, and its effects deeply altered perception and mental state. The expression eventually became a metaphor used to describe ideas considered impossible or disconnected from reality. After the Cult Awareness Network labeled Scientology as ruthless and dangerous, the organization was sued by the religion and forced into bankruptcy. Shortly afterward, a group that included several Scientologists purchased the network's assets in order to silence them. During the Korean War, Damara also impersonated a surgeon aboard a Royal Canadian Navy destroyer. Despite being a complete fraud, he managed to memorize how to perform certain surgeries from a textbook and completed operations on 16 Korean combat casualties. During the 1960s, a pre-internet hacking group began taking control of telephone lines with, of all things, toys they got from cereal boxes. The whistles included in Captain Crunch cereal boxes produced a tone of 2600 hertz, a sound capable of commanding telephone lines and making as many long-distance calls as the hackers wanted. When a tattoo is removed with a laser, it is not the laser that removes the ink. It simply breaks it apart so your body can dispose of it. It only leaves your body when you go to the bathroom. The immune system is responsible for transporting the tiny fragmented ink particles throughout the body so they can gradually be eliminated. That is why removing a tattoo usually requires several sessions, and some colors are much more difficult to remove than others. The word oxymoron is itself an oxymoron. It comes from the ancient Greek words oxy, meaning sharp, and moros, meaning foolish or dull. Despite the fact that adult flamingos stand between 3.9 and 4.9 feet tall, these animals only weigh between 4 and 7.9 pounds. This incredibly low body density is what allows them to stay airborne and travel at speeds of up to 37.3 miles per hour. Sitting for more than 3 hours a day can subtract up to 2 years from your life expectancy. And if you are watching television while sitting, you just added another 1.4 years of life lost. Remaining motionless for long periods has also been linked to cardiovascular problems, slower metabolism, and increased risks of obesity. For that reason, many specialists recommend standing up, walking, or stretching for at least a few minutes several times a day. Studies have shown that, when it comes to relationship problems, men tend to be more emotionally affected than women, but they are good at hiding it most of the time. Some research suggests that many men have smaller emotional support circles and usually depend more on their partner for emotional support. For that reason, breakups can generate long-lasting emotional effects even when they appear to have recovered quickly on the outside. If global warming caused ocean levels to rise, the first nation to disappear would be the Maldives. The island country is the flattest nation on planet Earth, with no area naturally rising more than 9.8 feet above sea level. Before becoming the well-known host of the program Inside the Actors Studio, James Lipton held very different jobs during his youth. After World War II and while living in Paris, he worked various unconventional jobs in order to support himself financially. Years later, Lipton himself mentioned in interviews that he briefly worked helping women involved in nighttime entertainment. While filming The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, who was 16 years old at the time and played Dorothy, was forced to follow a diet of black coffee, chicken soup, and 80 cigarettes a day. Scientists discovered that all galaxies, regardless of their individual sizes, rotate at the same speed of 1 billion years per revolution. This pattern surprised astronomers because massive and small galaxies seem to follow a similar rhythm on a cosmic scale. The discovery also helped reinforce theories related to dark matter and the way galaxies evolve over billions of years. Ferdinand Waldo Damara spent much of his life pretending to be other people. Beginning in 1941, the American-born identity thief posed as monks, a prison director, a deputy sheriff, and many others while moving from place to place. While pretending to be Brother John Payne with the Brothers of Christian Instruction, Damara founded a university that was authorized by the state. The ability to close your eyes and still touch your nose is thanks to a sense beyond the 5 you thought you had, called proprioception. This extra sense allows you to feel where parts of your body are in relation to one another. Proprioception depends on signals constantly sent by muscles, joints, and tendons to the brain, helping you maintain balance, walk without looking at your feet, and even write without watching your hands. According to a 20-year study, you should spend more money on experiences instead of material possessions. The happiness associated with things fades quickly, while experiences become part of your identity. Trips, concerts, gatherings, and memorable activities usually create lasting memories that people relive for years. In addition, sharing experiences with others also strengthens social bonds and can increase the overall feeling of well-being and personal satisfaction. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, students can fulfill their physical education requirements with archery, fencing, pistol shooting, and sailing. Doing so earns them the official pirate certificate. The tradition began as a student joke and eventually became one of the most curious recognitions on campus. The certificate has even gained fame among alumni and visitors for reflecting the institute's unusual sense of humor. Residents of the town of Dildo, Newfoundland, claim it is the happiest place on Earth. That is where they celebrate Dildo Day, and their mascot is a fisherman named Captain Dildo. British artist Richard Soa built an artificial island in Mexican waters using 100,000 plastic bottles to keep it afloat. It is more than 82 feet long and has been recognized by the Mexican government as an ecological vessel. After a volcano called Mauna Loa erupted in December 1935, the 15,000 residents of the city of Hilo, Hawaii, found themselves directly in the path of one of 5 lava rivers. To prevent it from destroying the city, the United States Army Air Corps dropped 20 bombs on the volcano in an attempt to cut it off at the source, something that had never been attempted before. Fortunately, they succeeded. A survey of 2,099 hiring managers revealed that the worst color someone can wear to a job interview is orange. They also said that the best colors are blue or black. In Japan, golfers often buy a strange type of insurance that covers them if they score a hole-in-one. Traditionally, achieving one means you are expected to buy drinks and gifts for your friends, so this insurance covers up to $3,000 for that expense. In addition to their standard set of teeth, moray eels have a second set of jaws located in their throats. Because of their narrow heads, they would otherwise have trouble swallowing prey. However, they can push the teeth in their throats forward to grab whatever is in their mouths and pull it toward their digestive system. Before officially receiving the name dynamite, the explosives were called Nobel Safety Powder and were named after their inventor, Alfred Nobel. The term dynamite comes from the Greek word dynamis, which means power or strength. Years later, Nobel used much of his fortune to create the famous Nobel Prizes, intended to recognize scientific advances, literary achievements, and efforts toward world peace. Developed during the 1880s, the sport of bobsled got its name because early participants used to move their heads back and forth in an attempt to gain speed. Of course, simply moving your head does not make you go faster, but the sport adopted the name anyway. There was once a court case called Batman versus the Commissioner, but instead of the Dark Knight suing the leader of the Gotham Police, it involved a farmer named Ray Bateman trying to appeal a decision to increase the taxes he had been charged. The Falkland Islands, a British territory located in the South Atlantic, are known for having an enormous sheep population compared to the number of residents. It is estimated that the islands have more than 500,000 sheep and just over 3,000 permanent residents, which equals approximately more than 150 sheep for every person. Sheep farming and wool production have for decades been some of the archipelago's most important economic activities. A study conducted at Stanford University School of Medicine involving 24 children between the ages of 7 and 12 revealed that they could recognize the voice of their own mother, even when she only spoke nonsense words, in less than 1 second with 97% accuracy. In 2014, to protest the madness of Black Friday shopping, the company behind the game Cards Against Humanity decided not to put any products on sale, but instead sold and shipped 30,000 boxes of bull feces. In the early 1990s, a group from Kyoto University in Japan successfully trained pigeons to distinguish between paintings by Picasso and Monet. After being shown several examples of their artwork, the birds were able to recognize pieces by the artists they had never seen before. An IKEA in the Netherlands was forced to cancel its €1 breakfasts on Sunday mornings when demand began causing massive traffic jams and road closures. In the early days of the toy company Nerf, its slogan was, "Nerf, throw it indoors. You cannot damage lamps or break windows. You cannot hurt babies or elderly people." The brand quickly became popular because its foam toys offered a much safer alternative to traditional hardballs used inside the house. Over time, Nerf expanded its line to include blasters, sports equipment, and products used in recreational competitions around the world. In 1951, after missing a shot at a golden plover, Guinness Brewery managing director Sir Hugh Beaver became involved in an argument about whether the bird was the fastest game bird in Europe. After realizing there were no resources available to settle the matter, he decided to create his own, which led to the creation of the Guinness Book of World Records. Tigers are widely considered to be the most vengeful creatures in the animal kingdom. They have been known to stalk humans and other animals that somehow harmed them for several days. On September 6, 1901, Dr. Roswell Park was performing surgery when he was summoned. He replied that he could not leave, not even for the President of the United States. Ironically, it was in fact President William McKinley who had been shot and needed him, but he refused to abandon his patient. The president died, and 2 weeks later, Park saved a woman who had suffered similar injuries. A survey involving 17,000 participants from 28 developed Western countries revealed that boyfriends who live with their partners do more household chores than married men, and girlfriends who live with their partners do far fewer household chores than married women. Nicknamed the largest battle in internet history, the Battle of BR5RB was a player-versus-player fight in the game EVE Online that took more than 21 hours to unfold and involved more than 7,548 player characters. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, professional pole vaulter Sergei Bubka broke world records in pole vaulting 35 times, surpassing his own previous records by minimal amounts in order to collect record bonuses as many times as possible. It is said that we may never know how high he could actually have jumped. Self-driving cars developed by a company called Oxbotica learned how to navigate thanks to a series of programs that include Grand Theft Auto 5. The technology company claims there are not enough hours in a day to log the real-world miles needed, so the video game was used to simulate them. A study conducted by researchers at the University of Vermont found that people with light-colored eyes, such as blue, green, or gray, are more likely to develop alcohol dependence. People with blue eyes specifically had the highest rate of dependency. In the 18th century, the cost of admission to the London Zoo in England was 3 halfpence, but those who could not afford it were allowed entry if they provided a cat or dog to feed the lions. At that time, many European zoos still operated more like private exotic collections than animal conservation centers. Over the years, feeding and care practices changed drastically until they became much more regulated and supervised systems. Nicknamed the Lighthouse of the Mediterranean, Mount Stromboli is a volcano located on an island near Sicily, Italy. It has been in a constant state of eruption for more than 2,000 years. The average yawn lasts 6 seconds, and humans yawn about 240,000 times in their lives, which means you spend around 400 hours of your life yawning. Although there is still no definitive explanation for why we yawn, some scientists believe it helps regulate brain temperature and maintain alertness. In addition, yawning can be contagious even among certain animal species, such as dogs and chimpanzees. A bloodhound named Lou Devine escaped from her owner's backyard in Elkmont, Alabama, and chased after some runners, accidentally completing an entire half-marathon. She was awarded 7th place. In the early 1950s, doctors at Tulane University in Louisiana discovered a way to activate the pleasure and pain centers of the human brain using electrodes. In one of the most famous experiments, the team managed to give a woman a happy moment lasting 30 minutes. Numerous investigations have concluded that there is no solid evidence directly linking video games to acts of violence. Although the topic is often debated after major tragedies, specialists explain that this type of behavior is associated with much more complex factors, such as psychological problems, histories of aggression, social isolation, and other personal circumstances. In addition, several individuals responsible for well-known attacks did not have a major interest in video games, so many experts believe the connection between the two topics has been exaggerated over time. Throughout the entire history of the NBA, no player has ever worn the number 69 jersey on multiple occasions. Although the number was never officially banned, several teams and players have avoided using it because of the associations linked to the number. Even when some players requested it, the league and franchises preferred to stay away from possible media controversies. At room temperature, atoms never actually touch each other, at least not in the everyday sense of the word touch. Therefore, you are not really touching the chair you are sitting on or the ground beneath you. you are actually floating just slightly above them. This happens because the electrons and atoms repel one another through electromagnetic forces, creating a tiny, invisible separation. The sensation of contact you perceive is actually the result of that constant atomic repulsion. The first woman to bicycle around the world was Annie Londonderry, who circumnavigated the globe between June 1894 and September 1895. What made this achievement even more impressive was the fact that she learned how to ride a bicycle only a few days before departing. Newborn babies do not shed tears. This is because they do not have fully functional tear ducts until they are between 3 and 12 weeks old. Although they can still cry to express hunger, discomfort, or tiredness, visible tears usually appear later once the tear glands finish developing. Some parents even notice this change quite suddenly during the baby's first months. On February 1st, 2005, an image supposedly showing a captured American soldier appeared on a website connected to Iraqi rebels, accompanied by threats and demands for the release of prisoners. However, it was soon discovered that the figure in the photograph was not a real person, but rather an action figure manufactured by an American toy company called Dragon Models. Throughout your life, the average human being creates enough saliva in their mouth to fill 2 swimming pools. Although it often goes unnoticed, saliva performs essential functions such as helping with digestion, protecting the teeth, and keeping the mouth moist in order to speak and eat properly. The human body can produce more than 34 fluid ounces of saliva per day, depending on diet, hydration, and other physical factors. Despite the incredibly popular theory, you do not swallow 8 spiders while sleeping each year. In fact, it is far more likely that a spider has never even come close to your mouth than that you have consumed that many. The rumor became famous during the early days of the internet and ended up being repeated as if it were a real scientific fact. In addition, spiders usually avoid humans because of the noise, vibrations, and constant movement we produce while sleeping. Doritos can be used as tinder if you need to start a fire. The oils and seasoning in the spicier flavors allow the fire to stay lit longer. Fritos and Cheetos have also proven to be excellent tinder. This happens because many snack foods contain flammable oils and carbohydrates that burn easily, something hikers and campers have confirmed during outdoor emergencies. As early as 1872, the character Humpty Dumpty had been portrayed as an egg in nearly every form of media in which he appeared. However, the nursery rhyme never mentions that he is actually an egg. In 1973, a short Batman episode starring Adam West was produced to raise awareness about wage inequality. While Batman and Robin are tied up next to a time bomb, Batgirl, played by Yvonne Craig, bursts in but claims it is too late, since she earns less than Robin, and that is not right according to the Federal Equal Pay Act. The late Michael Jackson composed much of the music used in the video game Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, but refused credit after hearing how the songs sounded once they were mixed. Not counting the 18.6 miles per second journey the planet makes around the sun, anything located at the Earth's equator travels at around 994 miles per hour, while anything situated at either of the world's poles is essentially stationary, but spinning in place. Studies show that listening to music while working, studying, or doing any productive activity can improve focus, motivation, and productivity. The best type of music you can listen to in order to keep your mind energized is actually video game music. Female peacocks do not actually exist. The correct name for the species is peafowl. The males are called peacocks, while the females are called peahens. The females lack the bright blue coloring. Their feathers are grayish-brown or cream-colored, and they tend to be much smaller than their male counterparts. When placed in a container of water, yellow lemons usually float, while green limes most of the time sink. Speaking of floating fruit, a whole orange will float, but if you slice it into pieces, the portions will sink. This happens because the peel contains tiny air pockets that help reduce the fruit's overall density. Once the peel is removed or cut, much of that buoyancy almost completely disappears. Located on the border between Canada and the United States, Lake Superior is the 3rd largest freshwater lake on Earth. In fact, there is enough water in the lake to cover all of North America and South America to a depth of 11.8 inches. Its waters are also known for being extremely cold and transparent, allowing visibility several yards below the surface in some areas. In addition, the lake contains thousands of historic shipwrecks preserved by the low temperatures. Scientists using an MRI scanner at the University of California, Los Angeles, found that the same parts of the brain lit up when a subject felt emotional distress such as at the end of a relationship, as when they experienced physical pain. A study revealed that as climate temperatures rise, the scents released by flowers decrease. Scientists believe that heat accelerates the dispersion and breakdown of aromatic molecules in the air, causing smells to become less intense. This could even affect pollinating insects, such as bees, which partially rely on floral scents to locate plants. According to multiple studies, being called baby has a positive effect on the female brain. It has been theorized that, subconsciously, it feels comforting to know you have someone supporting you if you decide to act like a baby. Nuclear reactors in different parts of the world have had to shut down because of overheating. The unlikely culprits behind these events are jellyfish. The animals clogged the water intake systems used to cool the reactors and had to be removed before the plants could operate again. A compass does not point to the planet's geographic North Pole. It actually uses Earth's magnetic fields to identify the magnetic North Pole, which moves in loops of up to 49.7 miles per day. That movement occurs because of changes in Earth's liquid iron outer core, which generates the planet's magnetic field. For this reason, maps and navigation systems must periodically update the exact location of magnetic north. After a close friend of actress Carrie Fisher reported being treated inappropriately by her producer, Fisher decided to defend her in a very unusual way. She personally delivered a package and a note to the harasser. Inside the package was a cow tongue and a note that read, "If you ever touch my dear Heather or any other woman again, the next delivery will be something of yours in a much smaller box." A report revealed that nearly 1/3 of children learn how to use a smartphone or tablet before learning how to speak. Many young children can swipe screens, open videos, or recognize icons from surprisingly early ages thanks to constant exposure to touchscreen devices. This shift has led specialists and educators to study how technology influences social development, attention spans, and childhood learning. On the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, every time Mr. Rogers fed his fish, he physically narrated that he was doing so. This was because of a letter he received from a 5-year-old blind fan who was worried about the fish and wanted to make sure they were being cared for. According to several researchers, American physician Maurice Hillman saved more lives than any other scientist in the 20th century. This is because he developed as many as 9 of the 14 vaccines commonly given to children, including those for measles, mumps, and chickenpox. During the Cold War, as a deterrent against possible invaders, the Swiss government carried out a plan to defend its borders by placing explosives on various bridges, roads, and railways. More than 3,000 demolition points were prepared, and the bombs could be detonated at any moment. Many of them were hidden in the mountains and were capable of causing devastating rock slides. After his death on December 26, 1974, comedian Jack Benny continued reminding his wife, Mary Livingston, how much he cared about her. Every day, Mary received a long-stemmed rose from Benny's estate until her death 9 years later. A study involving 33 laparoscopic surgeons revealed that the 9 who had experience playing video games made 37% fewer mistakes and completed procedures 27% faster than the 24 who rarely or never played them. Lady Gaga wrote her hits Born This Way and Just Dance in only 10 minutes each, and both became #1 songs. Chicago's nickname, the Windy City, actually has nothing to do with the weather. It got its name from people who believed the politicians there were full of hot air. Researchers at the University of York determined that dogs are more likely to respond to high-pitched voices, such as the way you speak to a baby, than to normal tones. The first public anti-smoking and anti-tobacco movement in modern history was actually started by the Nazi Party after German doctors discovered a link between smoking cigarettes and developing lung cancer. There is an interactive digital map online called Ancient Earth, which can show you where the ground beneath your feet would have been located on the globe 750 million years ago. As a human being, your skin regenerates every 27 days and will be replaced, on average, around 900 times throughout your life. Francois Clemens played Officer Clemens on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from 1968 to 1993. He was the first African American to have a recurring role on children's television. Several scientists believe that Earth once had 2 moons in its orbit. The smaller one collided with the larger one to form the moon we know and love today. The near side of the moon is very different from the far side, which could mean that half of it was altered by a collision. Although she was born deaf, Taiwanese dancer and choreographer Lin Chung-lan uses the vibrations the music creates in the wooden floor beneath her feet to feel the rhythm. She has appeared in commercials and even started a dance group for people with hearing disabilities. Google is technically one of the 5 largest computer manufacturers in the world by volume, simply because they build their own servers. Researchers at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City discovered a correlation between how much a person consumes and the size of their utensils. Basically, the larger the fork, the less you eat. Daniel Kish lost both of his eyes to cancer when he was a baby, but today he navigates through life thanks to his mastery of human echolocation, an ability in which he sees by using echoes from sound bouncing off objects, similar to the way bats move around. According to a report published in 2013 by Oceana, a conservation group, up to 1/3 of all fish sold in grocery stores and served in sushi restaurants is not the type consumers believe it is because of incorrect labeling. The white tuna you think you are eating could actually be mackerel. Around 95% of Suriname's population lives along the northern coast. This is because 91% of the South American country is covered by dense jungle. During the Prohibition years, illegal alcohol manufacturers made their products in secret places, such as forests or fields, to avoid being tracked by police. They used special footwear called cow shoes, which left what appeared to be bovine footprints instead of human footprints. Throughout his life, Walter Summerford was struck by lightning on 3 separate occasions. He died in 1912, but 4 years later, his gravestone was also struck by lightning. In the movie Hercules from 2014, the beard worn by Dwayne Johnson is not real, but rather a prosthetic made from yak testicle hair. Various studies on urban transportation have pointed out that, in some major cities across the United States, using ride-sharing services such as Uber can be cheaper than owning a personal vehicle. Factors such as parking costs, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and taxes make cities such as New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Washington extremely expensive for drivers. Neuroscientists at the University of Geneva discovered that taking a nap in a hammock actually provides deeper sleep than a night of sleep in your own bed. The researchers observed that the gentle rocking motion helped the brain enter deep stages of sleep more quickly and promoted relaxation. Similar effects have also been studied in babies, who often fall asleep more easily when gently rocked. In July 2013, scientists in China successfully grew teeth using stem cells collected from human urine. Although the teeth produced were small and not completely functional, the experiment attracted attention because of its potential to regenerate dental tissue in the future. Stem cell research continues to explore ways to replace teeth without relying on traditional artificial implants. Every year, thousands of people attend the Interstate Mullet Toss, a charity event on the border between Alabama and Florida, in which paying participants literally throw dead fish from one state into another. According to an article published, there has been a steady increase in the maximum life expectancy of human beings since 1841, of around 3 months per year. Factors such as vaccines, access to clean drinking water, antibiotics, and modern medical advances helped drastically reduce mortality in many regions of the world. Even so, scientists continue debating whether there is a natural biological limit to human longevity. In the early 1900s, automobiles were considered the cleanest and healthiest form of transportation because they did not leave horse manure all over the streets. The pollution left behind by horses, along with rising food and stable costs, led to the last horse-drawn carriage leaving the streets of New York in 1917. There is a farm in Delaware that turns old, damaged, and retired United States paper currency into mulch. It is estimated that nearly 4 tons of bills are converted into compost every day. In 1978, Francisco Macias Nguema, the first president of Equatorial Guinea, changed the nation's slogan to, "There is no other God but Macias Nguema." 1 year later, he was overthrown and executed. In April 1933, during a dinner at the White House, then First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and Amelia Earhart spontaneously slipped away after the main course, flew an airplane around Washington, D.C., and then returned to the White House for dessert. In 2008, a survey conducted in Coos Bay, Oregon, revealed that panhandlers asking for money outside the local Walmart earned much more money than most of the employees working inside the store. In some cases, the reported daily amount was greater than what employees earned in an entire week. Misanthropes are people who literally hate everyone and everything. It can often stem from the fear that everyone already hates them, so they simply hate them back. The high-pitched scream that many people, especially in the United States, associate with the bald eagle is not an eagle scream at all. Hollywood, in an effort to make the symbol of the United States sound more fierce, often dubs in the scream of a red-tailed hawk. This is because the actual sound bald eagles make sounds more like a singing parakeet than a tough predator of the skies. In 2006, October 10th was declared Tom Cruise Day in Japan. According to the Japan Anniversary Association, Cruise was given the honor because he has visited the country more times than any other Hollywood star. Before becoming a superstar actor, Harrison Ford was a carpenter. He was working on a door for legendary producer Fred Roos in the same place where George Lucas was holding auditions for Star Wars. By chance, he read for the role of Han Solo, got the part, and quickly became famous. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, better known as MIT, sends acceptance notices on Pi Day, March 14th of every year, at Tau time, or 6:28 in the evening. Although today they are mostly decorative, spiked and studded dog collars originated in Turkey many years ago, when shepherds placed the protective pieces around the necks of their sheepdogs to protect them from wolves. When threatened by a predator, red-eyed tree frog embryos can detect the danger and within seconds free themselves from their eggs and drop to safety. They can do this even if they are still several days away from naturally hatching. While producing their Black album, 3 out of the 4 members of Metallica divorced their wives. The band claims this helped give their songs a melancholic feeling. The richest animal on the planet is Gunther, a German shepherd that inherited more than $300 million from his canine father Gunther, who in turn inherited the fortune in 1992 from a German countess named Carlotta Liebenstein. Singer and songwriter Kesha once made a request asking her fans to send her samples of their teeth. The artist was creating an art piece while in rehabilitation for an eating disorder and required her followers' teeth to complete it. Studies have shown that significantly more serial killers and mass murderers were born in the month of November than in any other month. Studies show that people who have friends live longer than those who do not. In fact, having a community of friends is as healthy as quitting smoking, and almost twice as beneficial for your life expectancy as being physically active. While traveling toward the coast of Sweden on the iron ore railway, the trains generate up to 5 times the amount of electricity they use. This energy is used to power towns and other trains. Thomson & Morgan, a horticultural company from the United Kingdom, created a plant that produces 2 different edible crops called the tomtato. Apparently, it can provide up to 500 tomatoes and 4.4 pounds of potatoes during one season from a single plant. When babies are born, they already have an excellent sense of taste, potentially better than that of adults, but they cannot taste salt until they are around 4 months old. From a very early age, they show a preference for sweet flavors, something believed to help encourage feeding during breastfeeding. As the months pass, their taste receptors continue developing, and they begin recognizing more complex and varied flavors. Although it was a maximum security federal prison that housed some of the most notorious inmates, Alcatraz was also famous for the incredible food served to prisoners. Murderers serving multiple life sentences ate beefsteak, baked meat croquettes, and glazed cupcakes. They were allowed to eat as much as they wanted as long as they did not leave any waste behind. There is a steel bridge in Vietnam called the Dragon Bridge. It is shaped like the legendary creature, complete with a head that shoots fireballs and sprays water. The show usually takes place during weekend nights and attracts thousands of tourists and local residents. The bridge was also designed to symbolize prosperity and good fortune, since the dragon holds an extremely important place in Vietnamese culture. Found almost exclusively in and around the state of Vermont, witch windows look like normal house windows, except they are rotated at a 45-degree angle. Legends say that if a window is angled in such a way, witches have difficulty entering the house through them on their brooms. Michael C. Hall and Jennifer Carpenter began a relationship, became engaged, got married, and later divorced while playing siblings on the series Dexter. The average person spends more than 3 months of their life on the toilet. Research shows that men, on average, spend 4 more minutes per day on the toilet than women. During an early meeting in the writer's room for the animated show The Simpsons, series creator Matt Groening claimed that if the character Marge ever let down her hair, it would reveal that she had rabbit ears. The idea was obviously abandoned for being too ridiculous. Originally, the traffic and train signal for go was white, and the caution signal was green. The choice of white for go caused many problems. For example, in 1914, one of the red lenses fell from its mount. leaving a white light exposed. This resulted in a train ignoring a stop signal and crashing into another train. So the railroad changed it so that green meant go and yellow was chosen for caution, mainly because it is the most distinct color from the other two.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.